Alright, welcome back. This is going to be our first day of Unit 3. So, reminders before we get started as always, make sure you have your history notebook out and you're taking notes as you move through the video. Make sure that you complete the vocabulary for this video, which will be on the next slide and down in the description. Let's go ahead and get started. So our key terms for today are going to be mercantilism, free trade, Adam Smith, the Enclosure Acts, the Second Agricultural Revolution, James Watt's Industrial Revolution, Edmund Cartwright, Spinning Jenny, Flying Shuttle, and Spinning Mule. Major concepts for today are going to be major economic ideologies in Western Europe by 1750, the causes and effects of the Second Agricultural Revolution, and the causes and effects of the First Industrial Revolution. So, some commercial ideologies in 1750. Of course, we know mercantilism, where you have a baby country providing raw materials like a colony to the mother country, which is going to be a European country normally, where the colonies provide the raw materials to make finished goods in the mother country. Well, after 1850, we really begin to know a new one begins of capitalism, or free trade, really, where the government should not be involved in trade, and that the trading should be dictated by the people, not by the government, which is very different than mercantilism. It stems from mercantilism and the kind of booming trade in the Indian Ocean and Java and the Dutch East Indies and things like that, but it really is kind of pushes back against the monarchy system. Gentleman you know for capitalism is going to be Adam Smith, and he's going to write The Wealth of Nations. And Adam Smith is considered the intellectual father of capitalism and free trade, and it's really going to be kind of the main driving force going forward. There'll still be mercantilism, but it's mainly going to be capitalism going forward in terms of trade and economics. So here's a map of trade in 1750. It's very export based. You can tell that it's very kind of simple. By the end of this unit in 1914, you're going to see that trade becomes extremely globalized due to a lot of new inventions, and capitalism is going to allow this to kind of push forward. So let's talk about the Second Agricultural Revolution. In 1750, the world was still largely subsistence agriculture, but the Second Agricultural Revolution really begins in England, but also Western Europe and kind of US and Asia. So it kind of starts with it's as an outgrowth of the Columbian Exchange, an outgrowth of the Scientific Revolution, with new ways to farm, new crops to farm, kind of globalized crops, easy to grow crops. And another big one is going to be the Enclosure Acts, which this is really in England, where this is going to force English farmers to enclose their land with a fence, a barbed wire. What this does is this really kind of makes a lot of the farming pastures smaller. So some of these smaller ranchers and farmers no longer had the land that they needed for their cows to graze or their sheep and goats and things. So they began to sell off their small amounts of land to bigger farms and kind of moved to the cities to become the kind of first generation of factory workers. Now, what is the Second Agricultural Revolution? Well, this is going to be new foodstuffs planted, new styles of crops rotation. It's very much science applied to farming. This is going to be the increase of selective breeding of cattle, dairy cattle, sheep, goats, horses. It's very much a like a rebirth of farming, of kind of a new way to farm. Because the first agricultural revolution was, of course, the Neolithic Revolution, where we began to farm, and this is where, in the Second Agricultural Revolution, we as humanity are allowed to farm way more. So, from peasants to farmers. So the process, while social, began with technology and science. Agronomy and animal husbandry replaced herding. So instead of just herding your animals and hoping they breed and make more animals, now it's science-based. It is technology-based. Farming machinery is introduced, such as thrashers, reapers, seed drills, tractors. Uh, the muscle animal powered machines are replaced by steam engines, and barbed wire allows for you to own your land, where you don't have anybody crossing over to your land, and it really kind of sections off everybody to their own bit of land. Transport and preservation processes made export possible. Trains, ships with large holds, grain silos, refrigerator ships, canning and food processors make. Now I can take my corn that I grow in England and I can sell it in India, and it'll be just as fresh as when I canned it in England. Or I can refrigerate food so they last longer. It really kind of causes a giant spike in food production and food cost and the quality of food, so that now you're not a farmer, right? You're not a peasant working the land. You are now a farmer producing a good, and that you can sell and make money. Right? This kind of leads us into the Industrial Revolution, because with more food available to people, people can now worry about other things. So a precursor to the Industrial Revolution was going to be the putting out system, or the cottage industry, where you had a house that would make blankets, and they made 4 blankets a day, and that was it, right? Now, the first Industrial Revolution was river-based, where your factory is built on a river, and you had a big water wheel that would power your machines inside. And this really comes important in the 1780s, and this leads to the mechanization of factory labor. And now I can produce, because I'm not having to constantly push this wheel to make all the stuff work, that the river does it. Boom. I can now make tons of goods at a reasonably fast price and pace, and thus decreasing the price of goods that you can buy. Right, now, the foundations of industrialization. This begins in the 18th century in England. Coal was critical to the early industrialization of Britain. Overseas colonies provided the raw materials and capital. This is going to be mercantilism. Now, the demand for cheap cotton spurred the mechanization of the cotton industry. 1770, we have the spinning jenny, which is, again, it spins the cotton to make yarn. We also have the flying shuttle, which is kind of a loom-based system. That's going to be created by John Kay in 1733. We have Samuel Crompton. He's going to invent the spinning mule in 1779. Edmund Cartwright is going to invent the first water-driven power loom in 1785, which is going to utilize factory on a river to make cotton and textiles easier. By 1765, James Watt invents the steam engine, and the steam engine would become critical to industrialization going forward, which we'll get into more next time. Steel and iron are also important industries with continual refinement. Coke, which is a purified coal process, replaces charcoal as a principal fuel. We have a new way to make steel stronger and cheaper called the Bessemer process. That's going to be in 1856. And later, by the end of this unit, we're going to have the second Industrial Revolution, which is really going to kick off kind of our culture and our way we look at industry today. Transportation is going to improve with the steam engine and improve steel. Transportation revolutions such as trains, steam engines, giant freight boats that can move tons and tons and tons of goods across the planet. Steam power locomotive in 1815. Steamships began to replace sailing ships in the mid-19th century and mid-1800s. Railroad and steamships lowered the price of transportation, as now I don't have to pay a guy to protect my cart as it goes to a new place. I load on a steamship, it's there in a week, life is good. We're also going to get new ships such as clipper ships, canals, and turnpikes. Canals really begin to get big, and by the end of this unit, we'll see bigger public works projects such as the Panama Canal and the Suez Canal. So again, the spinning jenny was to produce yarn. The flying shuttle weaves to produce fabric. Spinning mule produces yarn, and the water-driven power loom produces yarn and then converts that to textiles. So some pictures that show these different kind of inventions. We'll go over more of these in class. So that's what we're going to end for today. Make sure that you are following along in your notebook and completing the vocabulary for today. And I'll see you guys in class. Thank you.